Prashu, we are live now. You can start. Hello, Prashu.
Yes, ma'am. Should we start? So, hello everyone. Good evening. This is Prashivardhan here from Eklavya side. I welcome you all on Eklavya Talk series platform. Today we have guest Ritika Sadev here with us. So, she have done her masters in architecture conservation in Edinburgh University of UK. In this session, she will be talking about opportunities in the field of architecture conservation. I heartily welcome you, Ritika, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here, guys. So before we start the session, I'll just give you a brief introduction of what I do. I am a conservation architect and I am currently working in Delhi. And I will tell you what I do as we go on in the session. So if we can just start sharing the screen, I can start my presentation. Smita?
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yeah, it is to me. Should we start?
Yeah, for you it is visible?
Yeah.
It is visible.
Okay. So let's begin. Career in architectural conservation. So to do that, let me first start telling you by what is heritage. If we go to the next slide. So we all have history around us. We all have old buildings, old structure all around us. And we all know that when we see famous monuments like the pyramids of Giza that we can see here, or Taj Mahal, or even CST station in Mumbai, we know that it is heritage. But what do we do to this heritage? And we conserve heritage. And by conserve, I simply mean when we look at the definition of conserve, it means to keep or protect from waste or loss or damage, which is very simple when we think about it. It's just a bunch of words. Something is happening with the screen. Okay, it's visible now. So yeah, when we talk about heritage, we talk about its conservation, and it's a very simple word. We hear that, okay, we need to conserve heritage, we need to restore it or preserve it. These are all just words, but then they hold so much depth that one session is not enough to make it understand, of course. So if we go to the next slide. So why conserve heritage? Conservation is basically protecting something. So if I have, for example, we have forts in Maharashtra. We have a huge array of forts in Maharashtra, and which is a legacy of a king that brought the entire kingdom to its glory. And we need to protect it because we need our future generations to see what was our history, how we maintained it in our present, and how they have to maintain it for their future. And that's the whole point of conserving heritage. So the term is never restricted to the very famous or the very intricate or the world known monuments, but it is also about you have an old vada in your hometown where your aji and your azoba lives. That is heritage also. That is something we need to protect. And you can have like a small fountain in your village, which would be called as a pyav, where animals or even humans used to drink water in old days. And that is something you need to protect, because that's what we need to show our future generations, that okay, this is how we live, and this is something we need to protect. So that's why conservation is, I think, very essential as a society when we live. And it is in India, we are still trying to understand how conservation works, but these are small baby steps and we are going in a very, very good direction. So if we move to the next slide, please. So, okay, I told you what is conservation and what is heritage and why do we need to protect it. But then now comes the question that who protects this heritage or who conserves it. So any professional who has a specialization in conservation of architecture, because I'm a conservation architect, I will be talking about architectural conservation today because that is my forte. So after finishing my 5 years architecture degree, I went for a course in architectural conservation, which was a 1-year course in the UK. And after coming back, I started practicing it. So it can be anything, an architect, an engineer, or even an historian, because it is not a one-person job when we talk about conservation. It is always a team, a multidisciplinary team for that matter, who brings together a work of passion, which is so selfless, but it is timeless. So moving on, a career in conservation. So what I've done today, I have just listed down a few courses that happen in India, uh, which which give you a specialization in conservation. So when I'm looking at these courses, of course, you can do your own research, but the basic thing that you need when you do a degree in conservation is you need an architecture degree, a 5-year architecture degree. And then after that, my personal advice would be maybe go for an internship which works with an architect who has a specialization in conservation, which makes you understand that okay, this is something I want to do, or this is something that interests me. And after that, then you can think of doing a specialization. So a few courses that are like march in architecture conservation, planning and management of cultural sites, and Master of Architecture, Conservation and Regeneration. This is done throughout India. These courses, I think SPA has it, Krivya in Mumbai has it. Then we have SEPT in Gujarat, who has conservation courses. So there is a vast array of courses which are coming these days. There are also diploma courses which are started, which are great initiatives. I've seen how hands-on the education is of these diploma courses also, and it gives you a very in-depth idea of how the field works, and if you want to practice it in India, it gives you a better idea. But if you're someone who wants to think of, okay, I want to do a master's outside of India, so if we go to the next slide, there are a few courses that happen in the UK especially. The one that I did was MSc Architectural Conservation, which was a 1-year course in the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. It was a very intense course, which was for 1 year, and it gave me a lot of in-depth information and knowledge of how conservation is practiced in Scotland, and that was very, very eye-opening for me, because I was someone who jumped from directly from my architecture, my undergrad, to my master's. So I did not have that experience of actually practicing the field and then getting an idea of how it works. I directly jumped with my instincts, and I'm glad I did, because I'm really happy with it, and I really enjoy the work I do. But sometimes we do not always know what we want to do. So that's why I feel it's better that you always do some practice in the field before you actually start going for a master's degree. Next slide, please. So once you do a course, a master's course in conservation, how do you start a career in it? What are the logistics, or where do you work? So I come from a very small town in Maharashtra called Aurangabad. So when I finished my master's degree, I was very clueless of how I would start working, and so like any young person of my age would do, I went to Mumbai. I started working in Mumbai, and I practiced conservation with a very well-known firm for 3 years, and I gained so much knowledge, much more than I did in my master's degree. It actually increased my knowledge twofold working in conservation, and it just made the next steps easier and easier. So of course, while you go through the course of the degree course, or even a diploma for that matter, you understand what you want to do in the future. What are the areas that you want to work in conservation, and you can you can just decide for yourself what you want to do. It's not just that, okay, you want to work on a building, and yeah, you can do that, but you can also work in academics, you can work in outreach, you can work with people. There are a lot of firms which are doing works which involve, indigenous people who are actually living in the old settlement, and they're involving them, they are making them a part of the scheme, and they are giving them employment, which is something that conservation stands for. It's not just about a building, it's not just about a group of buildings, but it is buildings in alignment with the people and how they survive sustainably together. So it's I think once you decide what you want to do and once you jump into it, it gets easy, and it's pretty much amazing. That experience, it gives you an adrenaline rush, which I think is there every day. So that's the best part of it. Moving on. And I would just like to close my presentation with a quote which I realized very recently that this is what I'm doing. It just says that conservation is not about a building or an artifact or a person. It is years and sometimes centuries of history scattered in every fragment of a built environment or a building, or even a staircase, or even a tile for that matter, doubled with sincere efforts of a multidisciplinary team trying to preserve it. It's not about restoring the world famous monuments, but in fact protecting the smallest fragments of the past, which would often go unnoticed. And that's where the beauty of this extraordinary process lies. Thank you.
We can have a questions now.
Yeah.
Prashu, you can.
Yeah. So it was a really nice to hear you, Deepa. And being
Thank
an architect student, I actually felt what you mean to say when you said like adrenaline rush. I was also not that sure about architecture, but I want to be an I have interest in that. So yeah, I went in that field, and I know how it feels when you go in. Once you go in that field, that adrenaline rush, that feeling about doing your work and the joy. So being an architect student, I have this question that what were your interests during your architecture studies, and what motivated you to become a conservation architect?
um, okay, interesting question, because I'll tell you why. Um, when I was doing my architecture, of course, like every one of us, I was very oblivious. I want what I want to do moving on. So I did do research on a bunch of courses. I just my one aim in my mind was I want to do a master's. I need to do a specialization, but figuring out what I wanted to do, that was a process altogether in itself. And not just in architecture. It's something like, growing up, I've always been inclined towards history, and architecture just added so much to that interest. And it just studying, how we are taught history, how we are taught history of mankind, and how the caves developed from to huts, and then so on and on. And it was just so interesting. And I think I was never someone who was inclined towards building high rise structures, or just designing massive massive towers or whatever. So I was always inclined towards it, and somewhere I knew it. And that's why conservation was one of the courses that I had finalized when I was looking at master's courses. But of course, there came a point in my research process that I was just so decided that I knew that this is what I want to do, and I just discarded other courses and I just went for it. So I think it's something that you just need to realize that you know it. So yeah. And of course, some research, in-depth research about how the course is, how it is taught, where you're going for, if it is a university in India or abroad or wherever. You need to do some in-depth research of how it is taught, what they teach you, because even though it's just one word, there are so many things, there are so many layers to it. So you can always look at what kind of approach is given when conservation is taught to you. So that can really help you figure it out.
So I felt it. And so studied your masters in UK. And how was your experience there, like studying in foreign countries?
So I studied in Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland, and the city itself is a World Heritage Site. So I'm living in a city which is a World Heritage Site, and I'm living smack in the middle of that city, and I'm studying about it. I'm studying about conservation. I'm studying about World Heritage Sites. I'm studying about uh, historic environments while actually experiencing it. So I think that was the best I could ask for, because of course, you learn something by understanding it, but I think something you experience while you're learning it, while you're getting educated about it, that just stays with you forever. And that was what the experience studying conservation in Edinburgh was like. And yeah, I am really glad that I went for it.
So I know I actually went through the profile and I came to know that you are in part of Intact.
Sorry, I can't
Intact.
hear you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I went through your profile and I know that you are a part of Intact. So let us
Yeah.
know what is Intact first and what are the role of Intact in conserving heritage.
Okay, so INTAC is basically an NGO which stands for Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. So INTAC has been working in India. It was founded decades ago, and they are, I think, the first of its kind organization that started working in heritage, in conservation of not just built heritage but also material heritage or natural heritage, because it's not just heritage does not just belong to architecture or built heritage. It can be natural heritage, material heritage, anything, arts and crafts and everything. So INDAC works with all of these under one roof, and they are actually they're doing great job, because right now, if I can tell you from my experience what I have been doing at Intact is, I work as a conservation architect at Intact. So we are looking at small sites scattered all across India. So sometimes, okay, I will give you a very Maharashtrian example, because I think most of the people here are Maharashtrian. So when we go to our villages, we have vadas, and they are beautiful structures made up of wood and stone. But most of the times we do not, they are not always well kept. They would have been amazing when our Ajis and Azobas were still living there. They would have been in the best shape. But now we don't know what to do about it because they're always, it's too much money required to, repair it or whatever. So where Intact works with such owners of heritage properties, we provide them technical assistance because although we have abundance of heritage throughout our country, we lack the technical knowledge and people don't know whom to reach out to. Maybe in cities people know that okay, there is a conservation architect I can go to and he or she will help me, or he will tell me what am I supposed to do with this property, which I can just demolish and build something new. But in reality you shouldn't, and that's where firms like Intact come in picture because they help you understand what is to be done, how it is to be repaired, how to keep your heritage alive, and how to capitalize on it and make it a source of your revenue. So that's the work of Intact. But apart from that, we also work on a lot of outreach. We do a lot of publications which helps people, any person when visiting, like, to understand heritage or visiting a heritage site or whatever. There are so many publications by Intact which helps common man to understand heritage and love it. So yeah.
Uh, what we have some questions in chat box, so let's see what people want,
Sure.
audience want to ask you.
Sure.
This is the first question. It is very difficult to penetrate cultural heritage sector in India. How you navigate that, and what tips you can give from your experience?
It is very difficult to penetrate cultural heritage sector in India. Actually, it is difficult if you're looking at it superficially, right? If you actually get into it knee deep, it is not difficult because it's all about you need to recognize what is the heritage. It doesn't have to be always in a big city, or it doesn't always have to be in some town in Rajasthan or something. It can be your local city. It can be anything near you. You just need to recognize it. You just need to see, okay, this is something that is heritage. It does not necessarily have to be 200 years old or 500 years old or 1000 years old. It can be 100-year old. And if you think it is worth protecting, it is worth conserving, that is heritage. So I think we are very lucky in terms of having cultural heritage scattered around us as Indians, because every few kilometers we move in India, there is something new and there is something so different, but there is always some connection to something we saw a few kilometers before. So I don't think it's difficult to navigate the sector. You just need some research, you need to do some mehnat for it, and talk to the right people maybe, and they can guide you.
So this is a question from my personal side. Do you really like to bring the old architecture style in this modern times, like the heritage, the Mughal heritage, and the south side and the front side? Like, do you really want to bring that style back in modern times?
uh it's not that I want to build something like that again. It's just that I want to protect what already exists. So it does not mean that I want to replicate what was built before, maybe by the Mughals or anyone else. But this is a very great question. I'll tell you why. Because um, people always get confused that heritage and development, there is a conflict between them. Because i am uh, I am advocating heritage doesn't necessarily mean that I do not like development. I'm also a person who lives in the 21st century. I need all my luxuries, right? I'm not living in an old house, I'm living in a very new house. So there is a balance, and we just need to understand that slight balance. And I think that's when you try to understand uh, the importance of conservation of built heritage, these are the small things that you do understand that maybe on a normal day you would not. So of course there should be development trends are great, but they should be sensitive to what is already existing. Development doesn't always mean that I'm going to demolish what was already there and build some fancy looking because I can. No, it means that finding that correct balance, respecting what is already there, having a sensitive approach, and still developing and still moving ahead. Conservation of heritage doesn't mean moving backward, it means moving ahead, but sensitively, taking the past along with you while you move towards the future. So,
So this is the question from chat box, and how it can be used for the protection of the heritage place of Ajanta Ellora and many neglected caves.
can you repeat the question, please?
Like how it can be used for the protection of the heritage place with Ajanta Ellora and many neglected caves.
The thing about Ajanta Ellora is because they are so world class, they are so well known globally. They are World Heritage sites, and when a site comes under UNESCO World Heritage status, they are already given a special care by the government, not just our national government, but also like we have had instances where Japan was helping India for maintaining Ajanta and Ellora. So the real thing here to look at is the world class heritage that we all know about, the one that I showed you in my second slide, where you can look at the pyramids of Giza, you can look at Taj Mahal. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. Everyone thinks that is heritage and this is how it should look. This is how monumental it should be. But no, there is more to it. There are other neglected, like the question says, there are more caves. There are so many caves in across India, which are not maybe as well, which are not similar to Ajanta and Ellora, but they also require the assistance. So I think when I am as a conservation architect, Ajanta Ellora, of course, is very important to me. But for me, I would, because there is so much attention, there is so much buzz around these world class monuments, I would like to direct my attention towards the heritage which is not talked about or which is neglected. And that's what makes it worthwhile.
So we have this another question. Is from different other graduated background other than architect, can't we apply for MA in
Uh,
architect? Yeah.
I cannot. I think when you apply for a specialization, M-Arch, of course, I know this for sure. When you are applying for M-Arch, you of course need a undergrad degree, B-Arch, because it is based upon it. But there are a lot of courses like MA in historic studies and stuff like that, or even MSc. My course, when I did it, I had a lot of historians with me, and it was amazing to see that people from different background, how their brains work and how they think about it. Because this, as architects, we think that okay, we know what we're doing, we are so we are so good at what we do, but it is always amazing to find people with different perspectives. So I'm sure there are courses which look at, which take people from different backgrounds. If you have that inclination towards heritage, you just need to do a little research about these courses, and I'm sure you'll find those. But not MArch. I don't think MArch is something to
Yeah.
do that.
This is a question from my side. From my side, do you think that still there are some monuments and caves which are not discovered or hidden in India?
Uh, I cannot vouch on this for sure, but I am sure there must be, right? I mean, until late 1800s, we did not know that there was an Ajanta or Ellora that existed so close, like a stone's throw away from my hometown. So I'm sure there is a lot. And as we move on, as we discover, like, you know, like archaeology, you need to dig deeper to find
Yeah.
out what is buried underneath. I think if we are talking about strictly about caves and monoliths like that, I'm sure there is something and we need to discover it. But I'm sure we will, because we are a very curious bunch as humans. So
Yeah. So this is the question: what are the opportunities in future for a conservation architect in India or in foreign country?
so I can tell you about India because I've been practicing in India for the past 5 years. See, you can always work for firms which practice architectural conservation, and as we are moving forward, there are so many firms that are coming in who are actually doing great work in conservation. Of course, like I said, they are based in Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, all these big cities, but they are doing a great job, and people are moving towards the less known heritage. So there are opportunities everywhere. It's just we need to find the right window of how, like, if I give you an example of Aurangabad, smart city is doing some restoration works in Aurangabad with intact Aurangabad. So that this is where they create a window of opportunity for professionals in with a background of conservation. So that's where you can apply, and that's where you can start working with. But in the meantime, there are always firms that practice conservation, and projects are all over India, because not necessarily that a firm who's practicing architecture in Mumbai has a conservation a site, a conservation site in Mumbai itself. It can be anywhere in India, because projects come from all over the country. So you can sit in one city and you can work on projects all over. But you just need to, of course, I keep on repeating this and I will stress on it again. You need to do some research about the field, how it works, what are the people, how are the people who are working in conservation like. And you can always reach out to people whose work you like, who can inspire you, and who can give you a clearer idea of how the field works. Like, if you like someone's work, you can always reach out to them on LinkedIn, and I'm sure people are more than happy to make you understand that what's the work like, especially to students who are so keen and so curious, and LinkedIn is such a good tool these days to do that. So, but again, I'd like to add one more thing. It's you can also enter the field, and someone asked that can I do a degree, a postgraduate degree without an architecture degree. So if someone with a history background does a specialization in conservation, they can always reach out, and they can be a part of outreach and management programs that work around conservation sites. And because historians make a big part of a team when working on a conservation site. There are also, it's not just architects and historians, it's also engineers. You need, if you're talking about a building, of course, structural stability is something which needs to be looked at. If you're talking about a 1,000-year-old structure, if you're restoring it, you also need to look at, okay, how am I going to do the plumbing and the and the conduiting and the electrical conduiting and everything about it. So you also need engineers, you need structural engineers, you need uh, MEP engineers and everything. So there is no one way that you can you can be a part of the profession. There are many ways that you can do it through.
So yeah, but I have this question like, which were your favorite heritage to work on? Like some of your projects and some of your projects which you had worked on.
Uh, so uh, when I was working in Mumbai, I was working with a firm called Somaya and Kalapa Consultants. I'm sure you must have heard of it. And I worked on a few projects with them, but my favorite one was an old multi-purpose hall which was tucked into a small suburban locality in Gamdevi in Mumbai. And it was a very humble structure, nothing extraordinary, not like, extraordinary gothic something. No, it was a very vernacular structure. It has some art deco accents to it. And I worked on this project from start to finish. We worked on its refurbishment, we work on its structural stability and retrofitting and stuff. Uh, but I really enjoyed working on it because that was an eye opener for me. Because until then, I was really new then. I had just started working. So my idea, like anyone else's, was, oh, heritage, I'm working. It has to be majestic. It has to be, monumental. But working on that structure really humbled me because I really came to understand what are the depths of heritage and how it can be so humble and it can teach you so much. And that's the thing, no two heritage projects are going to be the same, because I remember there was a time I was working on three projects at one time, and all the three were of different typologies. One was this vernacular structure, one was a Gothic structure, one was something else. And you understand how different materials work. You understand what were the different styles, and what were the different intricacies of these architecture styles and these buildings. So it is really difficult to pick one, but if I have to say, it is definitely this building called Malabari Hall in Seva Southern Society, which I worked on from start to scratch, and it really has a huge space in my heart.
So, let me ask you this question, which is really important for us now as we are living in India, because we have seen that Indian buildings, the cultural heritage buildings, are not that safe, because we have seen like people are writing the names on them and they are scratching them. So, how can we save our heritage from our side?
Brilliant question. See, first thing I'll tell you one thing. It's not just India, it's people everywhere. They go and vandalize heritage everywhere. I've seen that happen in Europe also. I've seen people write names. I've seen people spray paint on top of stone structures. So it's just the best thing we can do in India is to create awareness. Uh, See, the thing is, you can start at an early age. We are taught our history at a very early age, like third grade or something. So, if we can include that education of heritage, of not just oral history, but also history of architecture, of making people understand, making kids understand that, okay, this is your history, you have to save it, this is how you protect it. So, these are the small seeds that you actually sow at a very early age by means of education, and that actually results in responsible citizens, right? You and I studied it in architecture, we were lucky enough, but not everyone during their undergrad courses are taught this. So I think as a part of compulsory education, it should be done, but also most importantly, not everyone is going to get educated, or not everyone is going to get that level of education. So for people, for locals who have heritage around them, what can be done is outreach, making them understand what is their heritage. Because abhi kya hota hai, when I talk about heritage, it looks like, okay, she's earning money out of it. What am I getting? Right? And a person can question me, right? But what am I getting? What am I doing? It is just a stone mess inside in my in near my house, and I don't know. I don't want to protect it. I'd rather deconstruct it and have something else here. That is what a common man would think, because the dismantling of heritage is so easy these days. People just go with bulldozers overnight and the structure is gone. But making them understand that this is just not my heritage, it is our heritage, it is a shared heritage. For that, a lot of outreach is required. I cannot stress on it enough. And heritage walks, making trails around heritage structures, or having public events around heritage structures. Like I see this amazing thing in Delhi, that people have made such amazing use of their heritage. Like there are so many gardens which are around a tomb, and that garden acts as a public park. So entire summer I have seen Lodi Garden filled with crowds of people chilling near the tomb, having picnics. So when you create an environment like that around heritage, when it becomes accessible to people, they would of course go and indulge, and they will of course take pride in it. And once they do that, that's when they will want to protect it. So these are very small steps which we need to take, but they have lasting effects on it.
It's actually a myth when we talk about architecture field. It's not just, and we that it teaches more about like designing building and just constructing it. It's a myth. Like people say it's just about designing and constructing building, but it's not like that. It also talks about many things. It teaches architecture history, which talks about the culture and heritage present in
Correct.
India. So yeah, so architects is a great field to pursue. I just said,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. There are so many myths amongst architect also. Like I have friends who are who do not. I mean, who are who support that. Okay, heritage and all is good, but I cannot do it. This is not my cup of tea. I need to construct something. I need to design. I need to see it getting executed. So it is just different people have different interests and different approaches. But I think at the end of it, if we just as a community, if we like as a professional community, as if we unite, and if we come up with certain strategies of how to protect these areas, I think we can do wonders.
Lastly, I want to ask this question. Please tell us, the audience, like what are the guidelines of being a conservation architect? So how can they pursue conservation architect?
What are the guidelines?
Yeah, from
There
your
are
side,
no
what you can
concrete.
tell them to, yeah, you can pursue in this way, or you can, what were your interests, and how can they find themselves to pursue this, like their interest and all.
Uh, See, there of course there is no concrete guideline, but if you have a passion towards this field, just go with it, and just keep an open mind of whatever comes your way, because like no humans are the same, no buildings are the same, or uh, no practice of conservation would be the same as you move from one place to another. So if you're going to pursue a degree in architectural conservation or any similar specialization, just have an open mind, try to understand, read as much as you can, because when you're a student you have so many resources that you can go mental, and there are still more resources. So read as much as you can, and always engage in a dialogue with your peers, because people have different perspectives, and they can give you a lot. It can enhance your knowledge a lot when you get into these uh, discussions, and just go for it. Don't think twice. And if anyone does have any hello.
Yeah, please continue. I'm muted.
Yeah, if anyone does have a specific question for me or something, they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I can help people figure out what they want to do. But of course, if you're wanting to go to UK or something, there are always these consultancies which help people figure out what universities they want to finalize and stuff like that. So there is so much happening today, because a lot of people are pursuing masters courses, especially after architecture. And It's very easy. Or you can also do is, if you're going for a course and you don't know what to look at, what you want to go for, you can always find alumni on LinkedIn or whichever social media platform, and you can reach out to people. And I'm sure people are very sweet to help you. I have reached out to many people like that, and they have helped me. And many people have reached out to me after I finished my masters. Just because you're going into a new territory, you don't know what you're looking for. You're scared. You don't know what if this is a right decision, or if this leap of faith is going to be correct, or if it's going to be a failure. So it's always good to talk to people who've had the same experience, and that can really, really help you. And if not, just reach out to your university that you're going to looking to applying to, and they can also help.
Definitely, your session is going to help me as an architect student, also my other friends, because what you are saying that we are actually scared what we have to do after undergraduation, what field we should pursue, what specialization we should do, and this will actually help us for knowing what we have to do and understanding our
Yeah.
interest.
Exactly, because I know I have been there. I was in a place where I was scared and oblivious, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't. It's a huge risk, right? We don't know. It's just something we go with our instincts, and it's always good to talk to people, and it's always good to have that dialogue, and it helps you. It makes you understand. Most importantly, it will make you understand if this is something you do not want. And if you have that realization before, then you can always, it's never too late. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. Smita ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, should we end the session?
Yes, we can read here.
Yeah. So we are at we are at the end of the session, and it was really great to talk to you, Ritika, and it was
Thank you.
so nice to listen you and gain so much knowledge from you about conserving our heritage and about what to do and opportunities in conservation architects. So yeah, it was really definitely really amazing to listen you so nicely, and I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
to, and I'm so honored to interview and in this and like and in this age and like in this graduation year, and it was a really great opportunity for me to talk to you.
Thank you. I really, really, really enjoyed talking to you. You were very, very curious, and you were so great at asking all the questions. I'm glad I got to do this session, and I'm glad Eklavya gave me this platform, because I know not a lot of people know about this field, and
Yeah,
we need more professionals who want to work in conservation. And I'm always, always happy to help people if they need something, some guidance in the field. So
yeah. So I want to thank you a lot for the session and also the audience for cooperating with us. And if you want to share anything or something you want to tell our audience.
uh, I would just say that whatever I know, I'm talking to students here. So
Yeah,
whatever course you're going for, just do it because you want to do it. Don't do it under peer pressure. Just don't do it because all your friends are going for masters. If you really want to do something, go for it. Otherwise, you're not going to do justice to it, and you don't want to regret something. So go for it. And if you need help, you can always reach out. I'm going to stress it as long as I can, that reach out to people. It's very easy to reach out to people. People are so easy to reach out to. So just do it. And if anyone wants any help regarding conservation courses, or or a career in conservation, I'm always happy to help.
so thank you so much, Ritika,
Thank,
and it was a really good session for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Smita. You were so cooperative.
thank you, Ritika and Prashu as well. As being a non-architect background student, it was very informative for me as well.
I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.